There is a fish swimming in Japanese waters that contains enough deadly poison to end a life within minutes. Yet Japanese seniors in certain coastal villages eat specially prepared versions of this creature almost every single day, and somehow live longer than anyone else on Earth. This isn't a story about reckless behavior or dangerous traditions. This is about one of nature's most perfectly preserved secrets, hidden inside a creature that most of the world fears, but Japanese elders have transformed into their most powerful medicine. Deep in the remote fishing villages of Japan, where ancient traditions flow like morning tide, 99-year-old Master Takeshi begins each day with a ritual that would terrify most people. He opens a small ceramic jar filled with what looks like ordinary fish, but this isn't ordinary at all. This is fermented fugu, the legendary pufferfish that contains tetrodotoxin, one of nature's most potent poisons, now transformed through months of careful fermentation into something that Japanese masters claim can add decades to human life. Hello, my dear friends. Today we are diving into waters so mysterious that even modern science struggles to explain. What happens when ancient wisdom meets nature's most dangerous creatures? We're talking about a fish that can kill you with a single wrong bite. Yet, when prepared using secret methods passed down through countless generations, becomes the most powerful longevity medicine known to humanity. The fish I'm speaking about is fugu, the deadly pufferfish, but not in the way most people know it. While restaurants serve fresh fugu as an expensive delicacy, the coastal elders of Japan have discovered something far more extraordinary. They learned to ferment this poisonous fish for months, sometimes years, using techniques so precise and sacred that only a handful of families still possess this knowledge. What emerges from this ancient process isn't just safe to eat. It's what these communities call the elixir of eternal youth. Picture this scene that seems pulled from a fairy tale. In a village so remote it appears on no tourist maps, weathered fishermen return at sunset with their most dangerous catch. But these fish won't be served in restaurants or sold in markets. They'll be placed in special wooden barrels, covered with salts harvested from thousand-year-old deposits, and left to undergo a transformation that turns deadly poison into life-extending medicine. The process takes exactly 18 months, and the families who guard this secret say that counting the days wrong, even by one day, can mean a difference between medicine and death. Let me tell you about Grandmother Sachiko, a 104-year-old woman who has never spent a single day in a hospital. Every morning for 87 years, she has eaten one small piece of fermented fugu that her family prepared according to methods her great-great-grandmother brought from the deep islands centuries ago. When doctors finally convinced her to undergo modern medical testing, the results left the entire medical team speechless. Her cellular age appeared to be that of someone in their 40s. Her brain showed no signs of deterioration, and her blood contained compounds that shouldn't exist in nature. But here's where this story becomes truly magical, my dear friends. The deadly tetrodotoxin that makes fugu so dangerous doesn't disappear during fermentation. Instead, it transforms into something that scientists are calling nature's perfect cellular repair mechanism. Think of it like this. Imagine your body's cells are like old houses that need constant maintenance. Most medicines are like sending in repair crews that fix one thing at a time. But fermented fugu is like having a master architect who rebuilds the entire house from the foundation up, making it stronger and more beautiful than it ever was before. The secret lies in what happens during those 18 months of fermentation. Special bacteria, found only in certain coastal caves of Japan, slowly break down the poison while creating entirely new compounds that exist nowhere else on Earth. These compounds are so unique that when researchers try to synthesize them in laboratories, they fail every single time. It's as if nature herself guards this secret, allowing it to be created only through the patient dance of time, salt, and ancient wisdom. Dr. Hiroshi Yamamoto, a biochemist who spent 15 years trying to understand fermented fugu, describes the process as alchemy that makes medieval magic look simple. he discovered that the fermentation doesn't just neutralize the poison. It creates a complex matrix of bioactive compounds that seem to reset human cellular clocks. Mice given tiny amounts of fermented fugu lived 3 times longer than normal with no signs of age-related disease. When he published these findings, the scientific community initially dismissed them as impossible. Have you ever wondered why some of nature's most powerful medicines come hidden inside the most dangerous packages? It's as if the universe tests our wisdom, our patience, and our respect before revealing its greatest secrets. The families who preserve the fermented fugu tradition understand this deeply. They approach their craft not as food preparation, but as a sacred conversation with forces older and wiser than human civilization. The traditional fermentation process is so complex and precise that it reads like an ancient spell. The fugu must be caught during specific moon phases, when the poison levels are naturally at their lowest. The fish are cleaned using knives made from meteoric iron, following patterns that trace back to prehistoric Japanese shamanic traditions. The salt used comes from deposits that formed when the Japanese islands first rose from the sea. Even the wooden barrels are carved from trees that grew in sacred groves, trees that some families have been tending for over 1,000 years. Master Koji, an 89-year-old keeper of fugu fermentation secrets, learned the art from his grandfather, who learned it from his grandfather before him. In his village, only 3 families still maintain this knowledge, and they guard it more carefully than any treasure. The poison teaches us respect. Master Koji explains with eyes that have seen nearly 9 decades of life. If you approach it with greed or impatience, it will destroy you. If you approach it with reverence and perfect attention, it will give you life beyond imagination. This isn't superstition or folklore. Modern analysis of properly fermented fugu reveals compounds that activate pathways in human cells that normally shut down with age. It's like finding the original instruction manual for human longevity, written in a language that our cells remember even when our minds have forgotten. The fermentation process creates what researchers call biological time-reversing agents that literally repair damage at the genetic level. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about fermented fugu isn't its biological effects, but what the tradition teaches us about patience, respect, and trust. In our world of instant gratification and quick fixes, these Japanese elders have preserved a practice that requires 18 months of careful waiting for each batch. They've maintained faith in a process that their great-grandparents taught them, even when the modern world told them it was impossible or dangerous. The community aspect of fermented fugu preparation is just as important as the biochemical transformation. Entire families participate in the process, with different generations responsible for different aspects of the 18-month journey. Children learn to recognize the subtle signs that indicate proper fermentation. Teenagers master the precise timing of each phase. Adults take responsibility for the most critical decisions. And elders provide the wisdom that comes only from decades of experience. In the remote village where Master Koji lives, the fermented fugu ceremony happens only twice a year. When the community gathers to open barrels that have been aging for exactly 18 months, the atmosphere is reverent, almost church-like, as families who have risked everything on this ancient process discover whether their patience and skill have been rewarded. The moment when the barrel is opened and the aroma emerges tells the masters immediately whether they have created medicine or whether they must start over. Let me share the story of Keiko, a 96-year-old woman whose family moved from their ancestral fishing village to Tokyo when she was a young mother. For 40 years, Keiko lived like most modern Japanese people, eating processed foods and losing touch with her family's ancient traditions. In her 70s, she began experiencing what doctors called normal aging, memory declining, joint deterioration, and a general feeling that life was slowly leaving her body. That's when her elderly sister sent her a letter that would change everything. The letter contained detailed instructions for preparing fermented fugu, along with a small jar of the precious medicine that had been aging for exactly 18 months. Her sister explained that their family had been guardians of this secret for 12 generations. And it was time for Keiko to remember who she really was. Keiko was terrified. She knew the stories about fugu poisoning, and the idea of eating something that could kill her seemed insane. But her aunt's letter included something that convinced her. Photographs of their great-grandmother, who had lived to 118, and detailed family records showing that every generation that maintained the fugu tradition lived well past 100, while those who abandoned it aged normally and left much younger. With trembling hands, Keiko ate her first piece of fermented fugu in nearly 50 years. The taste was unlike anything in the modern world, complex and mysterious, like the ocean itself had been concentrated into a single bite. Within hours, she felt something she later described as electricity awakening in my bones. Within weeks, her energy levels soared. Within months, her doctor was calling her transformation medically impossible. Today, Keiko has also become the keeper of her family's fermentation secrets. She has taught the process to her daughter and granddaughter, ensuring that this ancient wisdom won't be forgotten with her generation. When researchers ask to study her, she always agrees, but she tells them, "You can measure my blood and scan my brain, but you will never understand the real secret until you learn to wait 18 months for your medicine." The science behind Keiko's transformation is gradually being understood. As researchers study the unique biochemistry of fermented fugu, the fermentation process creates compounds that activate what scientists call longevity genes, while simultaneously repairing cellular damage that accumulates with age. It's like having a repair crew that works at the genetic level, fixing problems before they become diseases. Think of your DNA as a library of instruction books that tell your cells how to function. As we age, these books get damaged, pages torn out, and some chapters become unreadable. Fermented fugu appears to contain compounds that can rewrite damaged sections, restore missing pages, and even add new chapters that enhance function beyond what was there originally. It's not just stopping aging, it's actually reversing it at the most fundamental level possible. But the most profound aspect of the fermented fugu tradition isn't biological, it's spiritual. The families who maintain this practice understand that they're not just preserving a food preparation method. They are keeping alive a way of relating to the natural world that modern civilization has almost completely lost. They see themselves as partners with the ocean, with time itself, and with forces that are far larger and wiser than individual human understanding. Dr. Akira Tanaka, an anthropologist who has studied these communities for over 20 years, believes that the longevity benefits come as much from the lifestyle surrounding fermented fugu as from the compound itself. These families live in a completely different relationship with time, he explains. They think in generations, not quarters. They plan in decades, not days. This long-term perspective, this patience, this trust in natural processes may be just as important for longevity as any biochemical compound. The preparation of fermented fugu requires a level of attention and mindfulness that modern life rarely demands. Every step must be performed with perfect focus because any mistake could be deadly. This intense mindfulness, practiced daily over many years, creates a state of consciousness that researchers are finding has profound effects on stress levels, immune function, and overall health. Have you ever experienced that deep peace that comes from being completely present in the moment, from giving your full attention to a single task? The families who prepare fermented fugu live in this state daily. They've turned the most dangerous food preparation on earth into a meditation practice that connects them with their ancestors, their community, and the natural world in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. Now, you might be wondering how you could possibly apply this ancient wisdom to your own life, especially since fermented fugu remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in Japan. The beautiful truth is that the principles behind this practice can be adapted and applied in many ways. The key isn't necessarily the exact food, but rather the approach, the patience to wait for natural processes to unfold. the mindfulness to perform every task with complete attention, the respect for traditions that have been tested across generations, and the understanding that the most powerful medicines often require the greatest care and wisdom. You can bring the spirit of fermented fugu preparation into your own life by approaching your health and nutrition with the same reverence, patience, and attention to detail that these Japanese masters bring to their craft. This might mean taking time to really research and select the highest quality foods available to you, preparing them with mindfulness and gratitude, eating them as part of meaningful rituals rather than mindless consumption. The fermented fugu tradition also teaches us about the power of community knowledge and the importance of preserving wisdom across generations. In our age of instant information and quick fixes, these Japanese families remind us that some knowledge can only be gained through years of patient practice and careful attention to subtle details that can't be learned from books or videos. As we come to the end of this incredible journey into one of Japan's most mysterious longevity secrets, I want you to imagine what your relationship with food and health could become if you approached it with even a fraction of the reverence that Master Koji brings to his fermented fugu. Picture yourself taking time to really understand where your nourishment comes from, preparing it with the kind of attention that honors both the gift of life and the wisdom of generations. This ancient practice reminds us that the most profound transformations often require the greatest patience, the deepest respect, and the willingness to trust in processes that are larger and wiser than our individual understanding. The families who maintain the fermented fugu tradition have preserved not just a method of food preparation, but a way of being in the world that connects them to forces that most of us have forgotten even exist. If this story has awakened in you a hunger for the kind of deep, patient, reverent approach to life and health that these Japanese masters embody, then consider subscribing to Dear Senior. Together, we'll continue exploring these ancient wisdoms that remind us that true health and longevity come not from quick fixes or modern shortcuts, but from learning to dance in harmony with the deepest rhythms of life itself. Your future self might look back with gratitude that you chose to embrace patience, wisdom, and reverence over the hurried, superficial solutions that surround us today.